She was the worst nurse they'd ever seen, too quiet, too withdrawn, too scared. At least that's what the Kentucky General ER staff thought, until the night Jane Mayer saved a dying patient with battlefield surgical techniques. And next, a military helicopter landed, demanding the return of the Navy's most decorated combat medic. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that change lives, please help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter and deserve to be heard by liking the video, comment your thoughts, and where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs it to stay motivated, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Arena. Your support keeps these powerful, true stories alive. Jane Mayer arrived at Kentucky General Hospital on a Tuesday morning in October, her scrubs crisp and her demeanor unremarkable. She was assigned to the emergency department, and from the moment she clocked in, she became nearly invisible. New girls in Bay 3, Dr. Josh Saturn said to his resident, Dr. Philip Torres, barely glancing up from his tablet. Probably another small-town nurse who couldn't hack it at a real hospital. Jane overheard, but said nothing. She simply nodded when introduced, took her assignment, and went to work. Over the following weeks, a pattern emerged. Jane never spoke unless spoken to. She took her lunch alone in her car. She declined every happy hour invitation, every coffee break, every attempt at friendship. When the other nurses gossiped in the break room, she would quietly slip out. When doctors barked orders, she executed them without question or comment. "She's so weird," whispered Ashley, one of the veteran ER nurses. "Like creepy quiet. And did you see those scars on her arms? What's that about?" "Probably nothing," said Tom, another nurse. "She's just, I don't know, timid, scared of her own shadow." Dr. Torres was less charitable. After Jane handed him the wrong size needle one afternoon, her only mistake in 3 weeks, he dressed her down in front of the entire nursing station. "Are you capable of basic comprehension, Mayor? Or did you get your nursing degree from cereal box?" Jane's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I apologize, doctor. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't." The mockery became routine. They called her Mouse behind her back, sometimes to her face. They placed bets on how long she'd last before transferring to a quieter floor or quitting altogether. The accident happened on a Friday night, 3 months into Jane's tenure. The scanner crackled to life around 11 p.m. Multiple vehicle accident on I-65, at least 4 critical, ETA 7 minutes. The ER exploded into controlled chaos. Within 10 minutes, the bay was flooded with mangled bodies, screaming family members, and the overwhelming smell of blood and gasoline. "Give me 2 units, O negative," Dr. Josh shouted, working on a middle-aged woman whose femoral artery had been severed. "Chest 2 now," Dr. Torres yelled from Bay 2, where a teenager was drowning in his own blood from a punctured lung. Nurses ran in every direction. Ashley was crying as she tried to start in 4 on a child. Tom was frozen, staring at a man whose leg had been nearly severed. In Bay 4, a young man, maybe 25, was dying. Multiple trauma, internal bleeding, vitals crashing. The attending physician, Dr. Sarah Winters, was working frantically, but she was losing him. "We need to get him a surgery now," she shouted. "He won't make it," said the surgical resident, looking at the monitors. "He's circling. BP's 60/40 and dropping. Then we stabilize him here." But they couldn't. The blood was coming too fast. Dr. Winters' hands were shaking. That's when Jane appeared beside her. "Doctor, I can help." Dr. Winters barely looked at her. "Just keep pressure on that wound. The bleeding is from the splenic artery. If you don't clamp it in the next 90 seconds, he's gone. I can walk you through it." Something in Jane's voice made Dr. Winters pause. It wasn't loud. It wasn't forceful, but it carried absolute certainty. "What?" "Make an incision here." Jane pointed to a spot on the patient's abdomen. "You'll need to manually compress the aorta while you get proximal control. I'll assist." Dr. Winters stared at her for half a second, then made a decision. "Scalpel." For the next 8 minutes, Jane Mayer transformed. Her hands moved with surgical precision. Her voice was calm, clear, giving instructions that were somehow both suggestions and commands. She anticipated every need before Dr. Winters could voice it. When the surgical resident fumbled with the retractor, Jane took it from him without a word and held it at the perfect angle. Clamp. Now. Good. Hold pressure there. Suction. More. Perfect. When they finally got proximal control and the patient's vitals began to stabilize, the entire trauma bay seemed to exhale collectively. Dr. Winters stepped back, staring at Jane with wide eyes. Where the hell did you learn to do that? Jane's face had already returned to its usual neutral expression. Just trying to help, doctor. That wasn't just helping. That was Dr. Winters paused. You basically just performed battlefield surgery in my ER. Jane said nothing. Before Dr. Winters could press further, the sound of rotor blades began to thunder overhead. The entire hospital seemed to shake. Patients in the waiting room stood and moved to the windows. The helicopter was massive, military-grade, and it was descending directly toward the hospital's emergency entrance. What the hell? Dr. Josh ran toward the doors. Security guards poured out, confused and alarmed. The helicopter touched down in the ambulance bay, its rotors still spinning, the side door emblazoned with the United States Navy. For sailors in dress, uniforms emerged, followed by a stern-looking commander with enough ribbons on his chest to write a history of modern warfare. He strode directly through the automatic doors, ignoring the security guards, the shocked staff, and the chaos. His eyes scanned the ER until they landed on Jane, who had gone completely still. Lieutenant Commander Mayer. The commander's voice rang out across the emergency department. Every head turned to Jane. Sir, she said quietly, we have a situation. DevGru operator down, compound injuries, en route to Landstuhl, but they won't make it. We need you airborne in 5 minutes. The entire ER staff stood frozen. Lieutenant Commander? Dr. Torres said, his voice hollow. The commander finally seemed to notice the others. Someone wants to tell me why one of the Navy's most decorated combat medics is working in a civilian ER and no one knows who she is? Dr. Winters found her voice first. Decorated what? The commander's expression softened slightly as he looked at Jane. Did you not tell them? Didn't seem relevant, sir, Jane said. Mayer here did 4 tours. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. She was embedded with SEAL Team 3 for 2 years, then DevGru after that. Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars with Valor, Purple Heart. She's personally saved more lives under enemy fire than most surgeons save in their entire careers. When the Pentagon asked who they wanted for combat medical training, the SEALs asked for her by name. The silence in the ER was deafening. Ashley's hand had gone to her mouth. Tom looked like he might faint. Dr. Torres had gone pale. Mayor, the commander continued, I know you wanted out. I know you earned your quiet life. But we've got a kid bleeding out over the Atlantic, and the closest qualified combat surgeon is 6 hours away. It's your call, but I'll get my kit, Jane said simply. She walked toward the staff locker room, and for the first time in 3 months, people moved out of her way. Jane returned 20 minutes later in a flight suit, a medical bag over her shoulder. She paused at the nursing station, where Dr. Winters stood with the others. The patient in bay, for will need monitoring through the night, she said calmly. Watch his pressure. If he drops below 90 systolic, page surgery immediately. He's going to make it. Dr. Winters nodded, still speechless. Jane's eyes moved across the staff, Ashley, Tom, Dr. Torres, Dr. Josh. There was no anger in her expression, no satisfaction, just a quiet acknowledgement. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you all, she said. Dr. Torres stepped forward, his face flushed. Jane, Lieutenant Commander, I owe you an apology. A massive apology. It's fine, Jane said. You didn't know. That's not an excuse for. Dr. Torres, Jane's voice was firm but not unkind. We don't always know who people are or what they've been through. The best we can do is treat everyone with respect. Every time. She adjusted her bag and turned toward the doors where the commander waited. Ashley called out, Are you coming back? Jane paused, considering. I don't know. Maybe I'm better suited for quiet now. You saved that man's life tonight, Dr. Winters said. In the middle of chaos, you were the calmest person in the room. That's not someone who needs quiet. That's someone who brings it. Jane offered the smallest of smiles. I'll think about it. As she walked toward the helicopter, the entire ER staff followed her to the doors and windows, watching as she climbed aboard. The rotors spun faster, and within seconds, the aircraft lifted into the night sky, banking east. Dr. Josh stood beside Dr. Winters, watching until the lights disappeared. We had a genuine war hero working here, he said quietly, and we called her Mouse. We did worse than that, Dr. Torres said, his voice thick. We treated her like she was nothing. When they returned to the ER, someone had pulled up Jane's service record on a computer. The citations read like something from a movie. In one instance, she performed an emergency thoracotomy on a SEAL operator while under direct fire, with only a headlamp and battlefield anesthesia. She'd kept him alive for 4 hours until extraction arrived. The man had returned to full duty. There were dozens of stories like that. She never said a word, Ashley whispered. No, Dr. Winters said. She didn't need to. The quiet ones usually don't. Jane returned to Kentucky General 3 weeks later. When she walked into the ER on a Monday morning, the entire staff was waiting. Dr. Josh stepped forward with an expression that managed to be both sheepish and sincere. We'd like to start over, if that's all right, he said. Properly this time. Jane studied their faces, the guilt, the respect, the genuine desire to make amends. All right, she said, but I'm still not going to happy hour. I like my car. There was nervous laughter, the tension breaking. She took her assignment and went to work, and this time, when she moved through the ER, people moved with her, not around her. They asked her questions. They listened to her answers. They learned. And sometimes, late at night when the ER was quiet and the staff gathered in the break room, Jane would share a story or two. Never bragging, never dramatic. Just facts delivered in her calm, understated way. But everyone listened, because they'd learned what the Navy SEALs had known all along. The quiet ones are often the strongest. And Jane Mayer was the quietest and the strongest of them all. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness and humility is never wasted, and that even broken path can lead to the beautiful places and change of lives, and that pretense kills, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Arena, because your support keeps stories like this alive and spreading. Tell us in the comment what you would have done differently if you're the nurse. Or has a stranger's kindness ever changed your life in ways you didn't expect? We'd love to hear your story.